Hey everyone, this is TimeRider with my final video in a can. My new bench is up and running and I've been working on projects since the first of the year. I got a shipment today from the Far East that will enable me to complete a project that I've been working on for a few weeks, and hopefully the video will be up and running next weekend. This is the Matchbox number 62B, which is based on the Commer BF series, which is a coach-style van that was customized to perform a variety of commercial purposes, among other things, of course. Lesney produced this from 1963 to 1967, was always cream in color, and had rent-a-set decals until the final year they produced it, when those were replaced by radio rental decals. Throughout the production run, there were various cosmetic changes to the accent painting and some really minor casting changes. Value, of course, is influenced by the tires, one way anyway. Gray being more valuable than black, and the fine knobbed grays being more valuable than the coarse knobbed grays. Of course, if you have the box and the plastic accessories still on the sprue, well, man, that's just money. I'm going to restore this one, so stick around. I think in an episode of The Bench, I described this casting as crusty. Had the nice nail polish identifier on the bottom, so it must have been owned by a sibling. It was held together with a tab in the back and then one rolled over post in the front. They made some really minor casting changes to this throughout. And one of them was the height of the ladder posts on the roof. Come apart pretty easy. I was fortunate in that I still had the door. A lot of times the door is missing. And of course the window there is held in with one kind of stamped post. That other hole is for a roof antenna. But once I got it apart, yeah, if you look at this, the glass, it's in really rough shape. Casting's in pretty good shape, though. We'll clean that up, no problem. I'm going to redo the base, of course, so got to get the wheels off. Pretty typical stuff here. Sometimes in the early, like the first year they did it, the back bumpers were painted, and then after that, they only painted the fronts. And like I had said, they used like 3 different kinds of wheels on this over the years they produced it. You know, it's funny, I try to do research on these things before I make my videos, and a lot of the research, I use Wikipedia a great deal because it's a pretty good source of information. Here, I'm trying to just see how well it goes back together. I want it to go smoothly always. But they had very little about this on Wikipedia, about this particular style of the Commer trucks. There's like one sentence. No production dates, no production numbers. And honestly, I didn't look very far. I get a button screw in there because, you know, I got to put it back together sometime, right? And then, of course, the warm liquid goo, the primordial ooze, the salsa. Shake for luck. So once I got it out of the goo, it was still pretty gross. Fortunately, though, the paint wasn't stuck on. It was just a lot of remnant on there. Base the same way, just needed a good cleaning. And then that, I didn't prime it or anything. I just painted it with a semi-gloss black that I use specifically for this. It's a rattle can. And I did this kind of a long time ago, but just looking at the way the paint is going on, I'm thinking this is Tamiya primer. The Duplicolor goes on so a little thinner. And at one point I did run out of Duplicolor white. I've since replaced it, but... Then I mixed up that kind of buttercream. They use it on a lot of things over the years. And a tack coat. Hey, here's a little trip down memory lane. Anybody remember going to the drugstore or the hardware store and they had that big console there? You went there with Dad and plugged in your TV tubes. It'd tell you if it was a good tube or a bad tube. Back in the day, now your TV goes bad, you just buy a new one. This tack coat was dry, put on a little heavier wet coat. I did this basically in 2 coats. And boy, I tell you, it was a woolly booger day too. I don't know, it was like somebody threw a bunch of thread into my paint booth while I was doing this. Because there's another piece. I don't know, Cody's not allowed in the room, so it's not dog hair. Must have just been a dusty day. You get that wet coat, you need to get it on there wet enough so that the paint will level. That's how you get the best finish on this stuff. See how thick it is up there on the top? That's that last coat. It's just thick enough that the paint will level. And they all had grill, headlights, and bumper detailing the entire model run. I like to work from a certain perspective when I'm doing this too. I prefer to push paint into the edges rather than try to pull it across the edge, if that makes any sense. And yeah, this is speeded up. I don't paint that fast. But I have found that bumpers, the best way to do them is just to be quick and smooth with it. It's how you get your straightest edge across it. A lot of times I don't even have to go over it as much as I went over this one, but it turned out really well. The decals I got from Black Square. And of course I ripped the other side. These Black Square decals are really thin, and I like that about them. But it does occasionally I'll rip one. So what you do then is you just get patient and try not to fight it. At least not too much. It's fiddly business, but if you work at it, you can get the thing to look pretty good. Then, of course, once everything was all done, I went over the whole thing, both pieces, with Tamiya X35 semi-gloss clear. And then, this is how I do my axles now. I think that this works the best, is I put them in the drill and, use my wire brush in the drill at the same time rather than sandpaper. But then on the end, I use a fairly fine sandpaper because I don't paint the ends of my axles anymore. I just clean them up really well. Of course, all the plastic pieces needed to be washed, in particular this window, which is just, it's just in really rough shape. I have this little plastic, it's like a scraper, and I use it to try to clean the windows up a little better. These were in really good shape. They were just dirty. So I didn't use a wash on them or anything. I just cleaned them up really well and put them on my little tire rack there to dry. In spite of how gross the thing was, it was really in not too bad a shape. And then I use these Novus products. It's basically a plastic cleaning system. This is really just it's a cleaner, and it actually works pretty good. Yeah, there's the little plastic spatula that I was talking about, or scraper, or whatever you want to call it. Certainly don't want to scratch it if I can avoid it. And this is step 2 of that same Novus process with my Tack Life buffer, which always works really well. The glass actually, I thought, cleaned up really, really well compared to what it was. There it is. Not too bad. And there's that back door. So get my axles put back together. You know, I always grind a little depression in the end of the axle. See, those wheels, they look really good, actually. They weren't in too bad a shape. They were just really gross, that's all. So anyway, yeah, you know, hammer the wheels on, and then we'll go back to where we started from. From back in the day, you know, when guys actually did this. They drove out to your house and fixed your TV. Let's take a look where I wound up. Well, there you have it. The Matchbox 62B Comer's Rent-A-Set TV service fan. Sourced out the plastic pieces. I'm pretty sure I got those from Steve Flowers. The decals, again, black square decals over in the UK. I think they turned out pretty good. Be an episode of The Bench following this video, for those that like that kind of thing. Otherwise, it's TimeRider, and I'll leave the light on for you. Hey, welcome to this episode of The Bench. You know, I had a couple people ask me to describe the mount that I made for my camera on the new bench that I put together, so here goes. I've been shooting with an SLR, a Canon 80D to be exact, and partly because it's what I owned. And I know a lot of guys do this with their phones. I don't have like the new iPhone, so my phone really doesn't do very well. But anyway, with the fixed mount, I'm also experimenting with some fixed focal length lenses. In this case, I'm using a 50mm 1.4 Canon lens for those who are literate in such things. This is actually a shelf bracket I bought at Menards for about $9. It came with the base and an end cap. And I drilled a hole in the end cap and inserted a 1420 threaded bolt, which is suitable for a 35 millimeter camera. I had an old tripod that I dismantled to steal this little plastic nut that I used to tighten the camera to the mount so that it doesn't wobble at all when I'm shooting or, inadvertently move. I'd suggest that, like a wing nut would probably accomplish the same thing. I'd show you what's inside the end cap, except I can't get it off anymore. So I made this kind of a cutaway diagram. After I put the bolt through it, what I did is I covered the bolt head with JB weld. I stuck a dime in it to press the JB weld all the way into the end cap when I screwed it back onto the pipe. And then I just let the thing cure overnight. So now that bolt is held really tight in the end cap, and all this helps the camera be really stable. Anyway, that's how I did it. I think that this is going to help me keep things a lot more centered, and I really do like this viewpoint. One of the things that I had said about doing it this way is, of course, it records everything upside down from what I'm used to. Now, here I'm working a little bit on that dinky Rolls Royce, which is quite a bit bigger than a Matchbox, so maybe this wasn't the best thing to show you what that lens will do. But because it's like 1/48 scale. But I did want to show you what it looked like. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use my software to flip it. And I got to actually, it doesn't really rotate it per se. It's got two settings. I can flip it horizontal and flip it vertical. And if I do both, it should make it right side up. And as we used to say back when I was in the high school print shop, reading right. So I don't know if it makes a huge difference. I guess if you want to post a comment below saying what you think one way or another, I'll read everything and then I'll wind up doing whatever the hell I want to do anyway. So I don't have a lot of new stuff for you because I've been working on my bench for like the last, since like Christmas. So I am working on this Rolls Royce here, and I have a couple of other projects that were from before, and I will continue to finish those. But that's all I got for you in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thumb up, thumb down, don't matter to me. If you're going to comment, please be respectful. This is TimeRider, and I hope everybody has a great weekend.